December 30th, 2014, a group of Gambians decided to use force and overthrow President Yahya Jammeh, whose name and regime were associated with systematic suppression of freedom, extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, rape, and other gross human rights abuses. The assault on the Banjul State House took the lives of 3 members of the commando. It was Colonel Lamin Sane, Captain Yahya Jammeh, and Sergeant Alaji Jaja Nyas. Yahya Jammeh kept the remains of these fallen Gambians away of their families until his forced departure from power in January 2017, after losing the December 2016 presidential election to Adama Barrow. In January 2019, the bodies of the December 30th fallen commando were finally returned to their kinsmen in a state-organized ceremony. The new Gambia government officials hailed the sacrifice of Lamin Sane, Yahya Jammeh, and Alaji Jaja Nyas to save Gambians from the dictatorship of Yahya Jammeh. The Gambia official state television GRTS called the fallen commando heroes. 6 years after this episode of the Gambia's history, CHERNO NJIE, BANKA MANNEH, and Papa Faal, who actively took part in planning and executing the foiled coup, have agreed to open up to our cameras.
The December 30th heroes very fondly. Jaja Nyas, Lamin Sane, and Jaga. They were selfless men who understood the meaning of purpose. They were patriotic. They understood above all else that our country needed change, and they were willing to put their lives on the line to help achieve that change. It takes a special breed of patriot to be able to plan and execute a mission, knowing full well that your lives may be at stake, that the new Gambia that you yearn for, you might not live to see that. They were selfless men in that regard, and we pray for them and pray for their families.
These are very honorable people. I spent time with Jaga. I remember December 3rd is when I arrived in this country, and Jaga arrived, I think, December 15. At that time, Alaji Barrow was already here. And imagine Alaji Barrow in a country where the military rules and speaking ill against the leader, the government, gets you killed. And you have this huge amount of weapons and armories in your room, and you had to safeguard it. And I came. I had to go also and grab the weapons that I shipped, save it in my own room, and safeguard it with all the events that are going around us. It really had to take a real courage for Alaji to be able to really stay calm and not panic whenever he sees a vehicle driving through his door.
These were men of conviction. I mean, if you know Jaga personally, you know he was not the kind of guy who just, loves excitement for the sake of excitement or just wants adventures for the sake of adventures. He was a serious, serious guy. His country meant a lot to him. Even the United States, where he was just an immigrant, you could say, he offered his service to that country. He went to war for the United States. And he does these things out of conviction, not for fame or fortune or anything like that. This is what he truly believes, that every human being deserves respect, every human being deserves freedom, every human being deserves dignity. And, when you know Njaga the person, the individual. One of the things you could always remember him to be was a man of conviction. He truly believed this.
When Njaga came, I first met him by the turntable, and we clicked. We were like family. It was these. We will have breakfast together. You'll come to my house, and then we'll make some eggs, and we'll have fun, laugh. When Sane also came, Sane is business, business, business. Let's get to the point. Let's get things done.
When Sane personally first contacted me, with such an idea, if you listen to him very carefully in his voice, what you hear really was determination, belief in the cause, and there's this sheer conviction that Gambia deserves better, and that better must come, and it can only come through Gambians themselves. They must be architects of their own destiny.
Lamin Sane, when some of the military personnel, the Gambian Armed Forces members with whom we have actually met, I've seen how much they respected him. He gained a lot of respect and trust for the people, at least the people that I have seen him interact with, how much respect they had for him. They cannot just respect him like that, even though he's no longer their leader, and they still honor him that way. That shows that he had the utmost character for a human being, and for him to be able to have that kind of respect. And Njaga is the same way. His dedication to mission and his humanity.
Like Yahya Jammeh, I wasn't privileged or lucky enough to know him. I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally like, I knew Njaga and Sane. But based on what family members have said about him, and friends and acquaintances, he too was another man of conviction. He served in the Gambia National Army, and he went to Britain, England, and he could have said, well, I'm away from the army, that life is behind me, let me follow my dreams here. And he just got married when he went on this mission. He just got married, and I mean, literally, he had a new bride. How many of us will walk away from a new bride to go and put ourselves in a situation where we could literally lose our lives?
I wish that I had spent more time with him, because I have already seen the kind of person he was from that little moments that we have together. And he was in my team, the Bravo team. When the fighting was going on, Yahya Jammeh was right next to me. I was behind him. There were a lot of people behind us also. We had to have them just make sure they're safe. Yahya Jammeh was just focused on the mission, dedicated, no fear. When we were going, we had an intel that General Sol Baji had fled the State House. He was in Brikama. And when I told him that, he laughed. He said, well, he's running after women. He's just running after women. And then he was like, let's just go get back our country. That was his word. And I could not forget that. The excitement that he had that night, that we are actually going to get back our country.
Alhaji Boy, he's a brave soldier. He's actually a patriot, somebody who loves his country immensely. This a very unassuming kind of guy because he's very quiet. Alaji Boy, if you see the Alaji Boy on Facebook, the Gambian sniper and writing and doing stuff, and you meet him in person, he's a very calm, easygoing guy. Doesn't talk much, so he's quite an interesting guy in that regard. You see his personality on Facebook, and then you meet him in person, and you're like, okay, who is who now? But a guy who means his words, loves his country dearly, sacrificed a lot, and also lost everything, just like the rest of us. He lost everything. He went to prison like us. In fact, he served 9 months in prison. We served 6 months. He served 9 months.
For many Gambians, the coup was a legitimate effort under the then circumstances to uproot the dictatorship of Yahya Jammeh. Yet, some compatriots believe that the coup was an extreme recourse that should have never happened.
I usually, every time I hear that, I laugh because the reason for that is either those people lack knowledge of history or they have selective amnesia, if you will. The reason why I said that is that I don't think most people understand that all countries throughout the world, this is not just Gambia, and I would say every single country throughout the world, if you look at how they got themselves liberated, if you look at how they got themselves to where they are, at some point in their history had to do what we did here. Every country, name me a country, a single country that had to truly fight for its liberation like we did here. Very few. I'm not saying there is none, but very, very few. United States had to pick up arms. What George Washington and his colleagues did, they were committing a treasonable offense. All of them would have been given the death penalty if they had lost the war. Easy. Nelson Mandela and the ANC in South Africa. Nelson Mandela was leading the armed wing of the ANC. They literally planted bombs. Treason. That's how they fought their battle. These are the people we are holding up as heroes of the struggle or whatever you call it. Amilcar Cabral. I mean, when we took these names, people don't realize these were freedom fighters who picked up arms to liberate their country. So it depends on the circumstance, it depends on the situation, it depends on what obtains.
People were talking, oh, these people were terrorists who came in from the United States to try to take over the government. And the pain was, here I am sitting all the way in the back. There were 2 young girls, they were going to Dakar for New Year's. And right next to me, there was another major. Luckily, it's as if God was actually just helping us out. The major stops and then we move. They don't stop us to search the vehicle, except one time. And until I reached Dakar, and they were saying, these were terrorists. Imagine going to battle, you lost your team members, and then you're almost close and you hear people calling them terrorists. My responsibility at that moment was to clarify. We were not terrorists. We had a mission.
Our action showed that there was a need for a military confrontation against Jammeh because it was the only way out. Jammeh left us with no choice but a military confrontation. Well, you can condemn our actions all you want, but even the international community drew exactly that same conclusion when it decided to pick up arms against Jammeh, because arms are what finally got him out of here. People forget this. Hello. The forces that we have here today, right now, they're here. They have not even left yet. They came with arms to get rid of Jammeh. If he hadn't left, there would have been war. So, who is right? We were wrong and they are right? Or we are both right? I mean, we can have this both ways now. If you're going to condemn for one, you can have to condemn it for another. If ours was wrong, then the ECOMIC should not be here. They shouldn't have come. Well, if it hadn't come, imagine what it would have been like. Jammeh would have still been in power, even though he lost the elections. So in the end, even the international community had to do what we did. So it's a serious, and I would say is the singular most credible vindication of what happened on December 30th.
And now when I hear people still calling us terrorists, it still hurts, but what happens is that I still believe in what we did. We fought for our nation, a nation that was being, our people who are being oppressed. And if that meant that we're terrorists, then so be it. So, yeah, I had to build a thick skin for that, you know.
Papa Faal, CHERNO NJIE, BANKA MANNEH and Alhaji Boy suffered the consequences of the December 30th failed coup. They served each a prison sentence. Each of these men, however, keep up the satisfaction that Yahya Jammeh is finally gone.
The events of December 30th were traumatic for those of us who survived, as I am sure it was for the families and loved ones of our fallen heroes. For those of us who were in the U.S., we were tried, convicted, and served time in prison for our part in the attempt to restore the rule of law in the Gambia. And we all came out of it relatively well, I think, and in good spirits. But we live with that notion that you were a convicted felon and all the negative consequences of that in the U.S.
I have never had a regret that we went into this mission because the value of life in this world is all about doing good, whether for your family or for your fellow man, and never for yourself alone. And we feel, and I know all of them, felt that this was a mission for humanity, for my fellow man who is actually a man and a woman who are really suffering, whether they said it openly or they just kept it inside. But we knew that the difficulties that they were going through, we cannot just sit by and watch. The impact is still there, meaning that there has never been a day that passed that I don't remember them. I had made dog tags with their names, and I have it hanging in my room. And I always look at it, and I wish that people really know the kind of people who these three were, and never to back down and run away from their responsibilities. And I still feel the pain. I feel always my heart gets filled with sorrow every time I think about them, and they are part of my life. December 30 is part of my life.
It has turned us into felons in the United States. When you are a felon, when you are designated, labeled as a felon in the United States, that has some serious, serious consequences. And it's a lifelong consequence. It follows you for the rest of your life. Up to the day they bury you, unless you get a presidential pardon, which will never come. So financially, it ruined us. That's what it has done. Because what it does is, you lose your job, because most of these jobs, if you are in the kind of industry that I work in, they do background checks. They will see whether you have committed any crime, whether you have been convicted of any crime, and all these things. So for me, if the moment they look and might do a background check and it comes there that, well, you are a convict, you are a felon, that's it. I don't get the job. Even business-wise, I've set up businesses where literally, and just to give an example of just one of them, I set up a money transfer business with a friend. And the moment the Securities and Exchange Commissions, SEC, which is the one that really governs those things, those financial activities, the moment they saw my name, they freaked out. They said, what is this guy's name doing here? I had to be wiped off that whole business because I can't, because of that. So I can go on and on about instance after instance with situations like that nature, where you literally, you can do this, you can do that, you can do that, you can do that, because if you do, you are literally breaking the U.S. laws. So the opportunities, the doors for opportunities, all are shut down. So, in the end, financially, you are ruined. Even career-wise, you probably will have to consider switching a career at my age. You have to literally shift over to a whole new career and start doing new things, different things. So it's been devastating as far as those kinds of things are concerned. Emotionally, very, very difficult.
The day that I left, I arrived in the United States. I had nothing but sweaters and slippers. It's just good people who just saw as if God has actually brought them in front of me to provide me with what I need. And the day that my wife came, I was there with Sankung, and that was the day that I was arrested. They waited until my plane landed. Their plane landed, and I was waiting for them with Sankung. I was my cousin. And the FBI, I remember he came, stood by me. He said, your family is here. I was a moment excited, and he's like, but I cannot let you go. I was like, I didn't turn around and say, what do you mean? Because I already know that it was just a matter of time. I cannot let you go. We have to put you under arrest. Sankung was right next to me. I said, okay. What really hurt me was that they took my wife in the back, interrogated her. With all the time that they took with my 1-year-old or 1.5-year-old, for a long time they were interrogating her, trying to get information out of her. And I was sitting outside talking to Sankung. The FBI were in the vicinity. They didn't put the cuff on me right away. And they let me, well, your wife is here, she's ready. They were interviewed and everything else. We went. As soon as I saw my kid, she just ran and I hugged her. But my wife was crying. And when I came and hugged her, what she told me, they said you were a criminal and that you were going to go to jail for a long time. That really hurt because I felt that she has nothing to do with this. She didn't even know. Why would the FBI actually go and try to intimidate her that way? But she was a very strong woman, and I was taking Swift. We flew together. They let me sit next to her. But as soon as we landed in Minnesota, I was swiftly taken from the airplane, handcuffed, and taken to jail. And I could see them walking that way. It was one of the most painful moments of my life.
Gambians nonetheless agree that no government shall create the conditions that favored the occurrence of December 30th, 2014 events.
Over the last 6 years, Gambians have learned the full extent of the atrocities committed by the Jammeh regime. This was not a benign dictatorship. It was a ravenous monster that engaged in mass killings, in rape, pillage, etc. The most shocking violations of human rights imaginable. I think Gambians will not tolerate, will not accept a return to those days. And I am very sure that any government that attempts to do what Jammeh did will be resisted, and all Gambians will join in that effort. We've paid a heavy price already, and never again will we tolerate that.
If you don't give peace to your people and you want to destroy their lives, rape their women, kill them indiscriminately and just wreak havoc, you are asking for it. If you don't want war, don't do that as a leader. If you do it, I'm serious. You are asking for war. People are going to pick up arms against a government like that. So any government that doesn't want to have people pick up arms against them to liberate themselves, don't go around torturing and killing and raping their women and destroying their lives and doing all this crazy stuff that Jammeh was doing. Because if you do it, you are asking for it.
Colonel Lamin Sane, Captain Yahya Jammeh, and Sergeant Alaji Jaja Nyas died for the ideals of a new Gambia where dignity and a decent life for every Gambian are the norms. The signs that this is not happening soon worries their living comrades.
Jammeh is gone. We have Barrow there now. What that has done for us is that, yes, it hasn't solved everything. In fact, we are nowhere near getting to where we would have loved to be. But also finally we have a democracy. We have an environment in which political parties, opposition parties are flourishing. New parties are being set up. People are campaigning without hindrance. Exciting things are happening on all fronts. Where the failure comes in, and this is the part that is of huge disappointment and a betrayal of the cause that they died for, is the kind of, I would say, accountability and transparency that we would have loved to see in a government. Is the kind of governance that we would like to see in a government that they really truly believed. What do I mean by that? For them, this period here that we are having would have been a transition period. What do I mean by that? Not for one individual to come and use it to stay in power for as long as he wants. This is supposed to be a rectification period, to look at all facets of our society, areas that what is basically wrong about us, and finding ways and means of fixing those, all of them, so that truly we can have a country that reflects that aspiration of every child, man and woman of this nation. So that cause there is betrayed because we have skipped the transition period. We don't have a transition.
I think 2014, the image that we have for the Gambia was of a free, prosperous Gambia. We want our people to be free from oppression, and we want our people to have the freedom to make their own decisions and to have a government that will work for the people to better their lives. 2016, our elections that happened had the same mission, the same principle. That is a nation that is really free from foreign interference, a nation that really our people are free and prosperous. and the government that is free of corruption.
The meaning of December 30th is that freedom is indeed not free. As we all know, we paid a heavy price to attain our freedom. ECOMOG forces also had to come in to force Jammeh to vacate his position and leave the country. The heroes who died on December 30th had a vision of a new country ruled and governed by the rule of law, a new country where accountability reigns. And this is the vision they had. This is the vision for which they gave their lives. It's one that we will do well to guard and sustain.
I mean, if you go back and look at even the MOU that was signed among the political parties when they ran in 2016, you will see that it does reflect greatly what Njaga, Sane, and Jaja died for. That country right there is what they were fighting for and they died for. Those are their, I mean, that document truly reflects their belief, their aspirations, and their dreams for this nation. So when we walked away from that document, when we walked away from all those wonderful ideas and reforms, especially security sector reform, constitutional reform, I mean, I can go through all the reforms, civil service reform, I mean, we know all the things that were in that document. When we walked away from those, then that's where we literally betrayed the cause for which they died for. Yes, we have a democracy, we must admit. And that's where I said, for me, the glass is half full, because at least we can look back and say, you know what, at least we are free. At least we can campaign freely. At least we can express our views freely in this country, finally. At least we can, push our agenda in our own way, within our own setup. Now, but if it comes to really having that package, that full package that we needed to finally really put this country on the right footing and make it the country that that country of our dreams, that hasn't happened. And unfortunately, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yes, they are not under the clutches of dictatorship, but dictators are not born overnight. It takes time for somebody to change from just a power hungry to a dictator, and to a tyrant for that matter, because as soon as their power started to get challenged, then they start pushing pressures and then taking liberties slowly. We haven't seen that now, but the trend is there that if the Gambian people, what we fought for what Njaga and Alaji Jajanyas and Lamin Sane died for, we haven't seen yet. The one ingredient that is the oppression is not there yet. Whether it will come, I don't know. And I hope that the Gambian people will realize that it is just a matter of time. The behaviors of a tyrant, the road to tyranny, is really ripe right now. We're seeing, because it begins with extravagance, a leader who loves being in the seat, not looking at the plight of the people, but looking at his only concern about his legacy. What people are going to say now for me to be elected next election. And we all see that all the time in the discourses.
BANKA MANNEH, CHERNO NJIE, Papa Faal have hope that one day Yahya Jammeh will be compelled to account for his reign of 22 years of terror.
It would be easy for me to say we kill him, but then we will be just like him.
The TRRC process is on. People are hearing for themselves, literally, directly from the victims and the perpetrators, what's been done to them, the victims, and what has been done to them by the perpetrators. We are hearing from both sides. People who literally commit serious crimes are coming out and saying, I, Mr. So-and-so, went and did the A, B, C, D, E, and yes, I got instructions from Yahya and his gang. This is not hearsay anymore, or such and such. Opposition are the ones who are, propaganda, or journalists are doing their fake stuff. No, this is the reality TV finally. People are hearing directly from the source. So all I want to see when this process is all said and done is only one thing and one thing: justice for the victims and their families. That is it. Justice for the victims and their families. If we get that on any given day, I will be able to go to bed and get a good, nice, wonderful sleep. Those people who have been killed, tortured, humiliated, abused, illegally fired from their jobs, people who have all kinds of things, those people deserve a day in court. And that means Yahya Jammeh should be brought to justice.
I believe that Jammeh should be extradited and put on trial for his crimes, either in the Gambia or another jurisdiction. He cannot hide forever. The atrocities he's committed over 2 decades are well documented, and there is no reason to think he should just go away scot-free.
I think it will be an injustice to say that for the sake of maslaha, that we should pardon him. That is not up to us. We are living, we're surviving. But those people whose life he took, whose bodies he maimed, whose family members he raped, to those people, we cannot decide for them. Only justice can decide for them. So I think that for the Gambian people, we should say we want to follow the rule of law, and any injustice must be addressed. He goes to trial, and if the whatever verdict was passed must be executed.
These crimes, mind you, were perpetrated by our government. People tend to forget that in the end, Yahya was the president of the Republic of the Gambia. What I'm saying is, in the end, that government must be held to account. And that means that government must make sure the victims are taken care of, give them all the compensation, monetary and all other forms, fully to them. If we have to bankrupt our covers, we need to, because these victims did not ask for it. We committed it without them even asking. This is a crime against humanity. So the government must step up. This is not just about Yahya Jammeh, the individual. And, okay, let's just take Yahya to court and all of a sudden everything is great. No. Justice for the victims simply means taking Yahya Jammeh to court, and also the government stepping up and carrying out its responsibility to the victims, compensate them fully and apologize to them fully, and set up a mechanism where such a thing will never be repeated again.